Okay, everybody, let's talk about whether your sex is worth wanting. We often talk about people's libido being low or their partner's libido being low, but we never talk about, is the sex you're having worth having? Is it worth wanting? Maybe it's bad sex and that's why you don't want it. So, what makes for good sex or bad sex is different for everybody. And so it's a very individualized thing. But let's discuss a few factors to kind of consider.
Before we start, a small disclaimer. The Sex Doctors podcast is not a substitute for medical or psychological advice.
One is to have good sex over time in a long-term relationship, at least. You have to have a good relationship to your own body. Everybody's got to have a good relationship to their own body. So that means connected to your body. It means feeling your body. It means inhabiting your body below the neck. We're always up here in our brains. We're thinking and analyzing. But to have good sex, you have to inhabit your body. You have to be embodied. And that means for some people, regular yoga, regular meditation, but it's an ongoing relationship. It's not like you check the box and you're done. It's like you constantly maintain a connection with your body because you know what? Stress disconnects us. It closes us, and everybody's stressed. When people get stressed, they're shut down. There's no good sex that way. You've got to be in your body and finding the pleasure in your body to have a good sex life, particularly in a long-term relationship. It also means having a ongoing, loving relationship with your partner, connected, respectful, kind, showing gratitude. You can't have a bad day and then treat your partner poorly and expect to have good sex in that relationship, because that stuff, it just chips away at good sex. People will say in my office, my partner treats everybody better than me. There's no good sex in that from that place. So you have to take responsibility for treating your partner loving, respectfully all the time. Even if you don't feel like you've got it, you still got to do it if you want good sex in a long-term relationship. And it also means bringing interest into the bedroom, not expecting your partner to do that. Everybody's got to do that. So bringing something new or different periodically, or bringing a different energy into the room periodically. So that might mean sometimes you show up in a very loving way. You kind of make love from your heart. Sometimes you show up in a very intense way. It's more of like sets from your pelvis. It's more of an all body kind of like intensity. Or maybe you're sexy and you're showing up in a more sensual way. But all of those sexual personalities or energies are important if you want good sex over time. If sex is going to be worth wanting, you've got to bring all of that to the table periodically. So it's often less about what you're doing, but how you're doing it, the energy you bring to the situation. People can get very stuck on touch this way and sort of like on the technique of it. And the technique is important, but so is who you are and what you bring into the room generally. And again, you want to do that from different perspectives. You don't want to be the same lover every time. That's going to be boring, and it's going to make sex less exciting for everybody. For you too, you want to be different and experience different sides of yourself, as well as give that to your partner as a matter of interest. You also want to be comfortable being vulnerable in the bedroom. So sex worth wanting generally means everybody brings a level of vulnerability to the table. And we don't like that word vulnerability, but it's essential for most people to have good sex in long-term relationships. And that's why at the beginning of a relationship, oftentimes people feel like that's their best sex, because vulnerability is inherent in a new relationship. You don't know your partner well. You haven't done these things a bunch of times already. There's an uncertainty and a mystery inherent in that. And so this unpredictability amps up passion. Now you can imagine in a long-term relationship, there's so much less unpredictability. You know your partner, you've done the stuff before, so there's less vulnerability. So that means you have to take responsibility to consciously bring vulnerability into the room. And what I often recommend people do, like heterosexual couples, for example, I'll ask her to practice being vulnerable on her own and then learn to find the pleasure in that. So one way to do that would be to practice yoga hip openers. I have her lock herself in her bedroom so she knows no one's going to see her, and practice a yoga hip opener. Those are very exposing. They're very vulnerable feeling postures, and see if she can find the pleasure in it. And as she practices, and it could take a while, and she learns to find the pleasure in that level of openness and exposure, then she brings that into the bedroom. And that can amp up the passion for her and for her partner. Definitely helps make sex worth wanting. So bringing that sense of vulnerability and finding the pleasure in it. Now for him, I often suggest something different. I'll have him practice showing his passion to his partner in his eyes. So for men, we tell men, don't show your emotion, and men learn to kind of like hide that. But showing passion in your eyes is a very potent way to make sex more interesting in a long-term relationship. Oftentimes, guys don't even know what I mean when I say show that passion in your eyes. So I'll say, sexually harass your partner with your eyes, not your touch. Don't be intrusive, but just show her your passion in your eyes. And women generally respond very well to that if they're in a long-term relationship where they feel respected and they trust their partner. That can be very exciting. She can feel wanted and desired, and that can amp her up. So when he shows that passion, when he sexually harasses her with his eyes, that can amp up passion for everybody and make sex worth wanting. So those are just a few things to consider. We'll talk about more over time, but that's a very important piece of the puzzle. If your libido is low or your partner's, consider, is the sex you're having worth wanting?